Good morning, everyone. My name is Harry Obery, and I'm the Yavapai County Supervisor for District 1, which this cemetery and the National Cemetery are in District 1. I want to welcome you and thank all of you for attending the 25th Annual Memorial Day observance here at the Citizen Cemetery. The cemetery was originally established in 1864 after Prescott became the first territorial capital of Arizona. While there's a lot of history here, which you will hear more about shortly, the cemetery eventually fell into many years of neglect after the last burial in 1933. And at that time, they considered this cemetery to be at full capacity. This is the second year that the county is honored to sponsor this event after postponing the observance last year due to the virus. We have a full program for you today, and it is my pleasure at this time to introduce Honorable Ken Bennett, who will be our Master of Ceremony.
Good morning. My name is Ken Bennett, and I'm your Master of Ceremonies for the Yavapai County Citizen Cemetery 25th Annual Memorial Day Observance. For many years, beginning in 1909, the first part of Memorial Day's observance in Prescott was a procession comprised of military units from Fort Whipple, various fraternal and community organizations, as well as members of the Prescott Volunteer Fire Department and the City Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you're reading this, there's gonna come a day when you move on and find someone else, and that's okay. Just remember this, I'm in a better place. The soldiers live in peace and angels sing amazing grace. So lay me down in a field like this out on the edge of town. And oh, my soul is where my mama always prayed that it would go. If you're reading this, if you're reading this, I'm already home.
Good morning. My name is Parker Anderson. I'm one of the local historians here in Prescott. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you to Yavapai County for having me. Citizen Cemetery, as noted before, was Prescott's first cemetery. The first recorded burial here was in 1864, the same year that Prescott was founded as the territorial capital. The deceased was Joel Woods. He was killed in a hunting accident, apparently. He was a Colorado state legislator. He was on vacation here, I guess, and he was buried here instead of being sent home, which maybe gives an indication of what Colorado thought of him. The records at the time show that he was buried in a place, quote, outside of town, unquote. Where we are sitting here was outside of town in those days. But since then, this hallowed ground came to represent Prescott overall as a community in our olden days. Many veterans are buried here. Local office holders are represented here. Mayors, Prescott merchants and businessmen, clergymen. And I should mention that Yavapai County recently unveiled the Fallen Officers Memorial down on the plaza. One of those fallen officers is buried in this cemetery. Yavapai County Deputy Sheriff John Murphy, who was gunned down by a man he was trying to arrest for a theft. Deputy Murphy is buried up there on the south end. Good morning. I'm David Rhodes, Yavapai County Sheriff. It is my distinct honor to be here with so many freedom-loving Americans today. It's fantastic. I'm going to be reading the Gettysburg Address. From July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, the invading forces of General Robert E. Lee's Confederate Army clashed with the Army of the Potomac under the newly appointed leader, General George Meade, in Gettysburg, some 35 miles southwest of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Casualties were high on both sides. Out of roughly 170,000 Union and Confederate soldiers, there were 23,000 Union casualties, more than a quarter of the Army's effective forces, and 28,000 Confederates killed, wounded, or missing, more than a third of Lee's army. In the Battle of Gettysburg, after 3 days of battle, Lee retreated towards Virginia on the night of July the 4th. It was a crushing defeat for the Confederacy, and a month later, the great general would offer Confederate President Jefferson Davis his resignation. Davis refused to accept it. On November 19, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln delivered remarks which later became known as the Gettysburg Address at the official dedication ceremony for the National Cemetery of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, on the site of one of the bloodiest and most decisive battles of the Civil War. Though he was not the featured orator that day, Lincoln's brief address would be remembered as one of the most important speeches in American history. In it, he invoked the principles of human equality contained in the Declaration of Independence and connected the sacrifices of the Civil War with the desire for a new birth of freedom, as well as all-important preservation of the Union created in 1776 and its ideal of self-government. This is Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we're engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We've come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives that the nation might live. It's altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but we can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we will take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth and freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from earth. That was Abraham Lincoln, November 19th, 1863.
It's good to be back. You know, we missed this a year ago. Unfortunately, I was saddened to hear that a year ago. And I had faith in Prescott and Yavapai County to show up big today, and you did. I want to thank you for being here today to remember our fallen. You know, Prescott and Yavapai County, we're the most patriotic in the United States of America. Give yourselves a hand for being the most patriotic. I think that's on full display today. You know, there's lots of history here. And it's important that we recount, remember, and revive.